In 1910, one man quietly controlled almost 90% of America's oil. Not a government, not a king, just one man. His name was John D. Rockefeller, the richest man in modern history. But the real question is not how rich he became. The real question is, how did one man take control of an entire industry without anyone stopping him? And why did the U.S. government eventually decide he had become too powerful to exist? This is the story of the man who built the most powerful business empire the world had ever seen.
In 1839, in a small town in New York, John Rockefeller was born into a modest family. His father was a traveling salesman, sometimes described as a con artist. His mother, however, was deeply religious and extremely disciplined. She taught him 3 rules that shaped his life: save money, work harder than everyone else, and never waste an opportunity. By the age of 16, Rockefeller got his first job as a bookkeeper. Numbers fascinated him. Every cent mattered, and very early in his life, he realized something important. The people who control money eventually control everything. But the opportunity that would change his life forever was about to emerge from the ground, literally. In 1859, the world changed. The first commercial oil well was drilled in Pennsylvania. Suddenly, everyone wanted oil. It was used to produce kerosene, which lit lamps across America. Within a few years, thousands of people rushed into the oil business. Most believed the real money was in drilling oil. But Rockefeller saw something others didn't. And this decision would make him incredibly powerful. Instead of drilling oil, he focused on refining it, turning crude oil into valuable products. This small decision would eventually give him control over the entire industry.
But Rockefeller wasn't just building a company. He was quietly building something far more powerful: a monopoly.
In 1870, Rockefeller founded Standard Oil. At first, it looked like just another oil company, but Rockefeller had a strategy no one else understood. Instead of competing with other companies, he started buying them. If they refused to sell, he would lower prices until they went bankrupt, then buy them even cheaper. It was ruthless, but incredibly effective. Within a few years, Standard Oil controlled most of the oil refineries in America, and Rockefeller wasn't done yet.
Because Rockefeller realized something shocking: if you control transportation, you control the entire market.
Rockefeller began negotiating secret deals with railroad companies. Railroads transported oil across the country. Rockefeller convinced them to give him massive discounts. Meanwhile, his competitors paid full price. This meant one thing: Rockefeller could sell oil cheaper than everyone else, and competitors had only 2 options: sell their companies to him or go out of business. One by one, they disappeared. By the 1880s, Standard Oil controlled nearly 90% of the oil industry in the United States. It was the most powerful corporation the world had ever seen.
But Rockefeller's success created a dangerous problem. He had become too powerful.
By the early 1900s, Americans were becoming worried. One company controlling almost an entire industry, that sounded dangerous. Journalists began exposing Rockefeller's business practices. Public anger grew. Finally, the U.S. government stepped in. In 1911, the Supreme Court made a historic decision. They ruled that Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly, and they ordered the company to be broken into 34 separate companies. It was one of the most dramatic corporate breakups in history. But here's the twist no one expected.
Breaking up Standard Oil actually made Rockefeller even richer. When Standard Oil was divided, Rockefeller received shares in all the new companies. And many of those companies eventually became global giants like ExxonMobil and Chevron Corporation. As these companies grew, so did Rockefeller's wealth. Adjusted for today's money, his fortune is estimated at over $300 billion, making him arguably the richest person in modern history.
Rockefeller later spent much of his fortune on philanthropy. He funded universities, medical research, and public health programs. Yet his legacy remains controversial. Was he a brilliant entrepreneur, or a ruthless monopolist who crushed competition? Perhaps he was both. But one thing is certain. John Rockefeller didn't just build a company. He built a system of power that reshaped the global economy forever. And more than a century later, the world is still feeling the impact of the empire he created.